In the world of business, they say you should never mix it with your personal life. They also say a marriage is a partnership built on trust. What happens when your life's work and the trust in your marriage are built on a foundation of lies? This is the story of how my ex-wife's deceit almost cost me everything, only to expose a deeper betrayal that saved me in the end. My name is Robert, and for 20 years, my hands have been a testament to my ambition. I started my landscaping business at 25 with a single battered pickup truck, a few second-hand tools, and a hunger to escape the poverty that defined my childhood. My father was a construction worker, and I watched him break his back for a lifetime with nothing to show for it but a mountain of bills. I vowed my life would be different. I would build something from the ground up, something that was mine, a legacy I could be proud of. The early years were a grind, 7-day work weeks, no holidays, and a body that constantly ached. I started small, with residential lawns, then slowly moved to bigger commercial contracts. By the time I hit 45, the business was thriving. I had a team of 12 dedicated employees, a fleet of trucks, and contracts with some of the biggest properties in the county. We were pulling in close to $2 million a year. My wife, Cassandra, was with me through a lot of it. In the beginning, she seemed supportive. She'd handle the bookkeeping, answer phones from our kitchen table, and never complained about the dirt I tracked into the house. But as the business grew, something changed. The money started flowing, and with it, a shift in her. She began to resent my long hours, to complain that the business was more important than our marriage. We had small fights, which I dismissed as normal marital friction. I tried to include her more, giving her a larger role in the office and even adding her name to some of the business accounts. Looking back, that was my biggest mistake. Over 3 years, our marriage slowly unraveled. There were no dramatic fights, just a cold, silent drift into 2 separate lives. She started coming home late, taking mysterious calls in other rooms. All the classic signs were there. But I was so focused on keeping my business on track that I didn't see the warning signs flashing right in front of my face. When she finally asked for a divorce, I wasn't surprised, just tired. But what I wasn't prepared for was the paperwork her lawyer served me just 2 days later. She wasn't asking for a fair split of our assets or alimony. She was demanding 50% ownership of my business. Everything I'd spent 20 years building, she wanted to claim as her own. Her legal team argued she was a crucial business partner, minimizing her part-time work and maximizing her role as a supportive wife. I hired the best lawyer I could find, a sharp woman named Patricia Hernandez. Even she was concerned. In our state, any business started during a marriage is considered marital property. Cassandra's lawyers had a stack of documents detailing her involvement with the company. The initial hearings were brutal. Listening to her describe our marriage as a business partnership, her lawyer portraying me as a control freak who minimized her contributions, felt like a punch to the gut. The worst part was that some of it was true. I had made most of the decisions and had kept her at arm's length from clients. But that wasn't out of spite. It was because she had no interest in the actual work. She wanted the benefits of ownership without the risks or responsibility. For 3 months, I felt like I was losing everything. My lawyer was talking about settling, and I was seriously considering selling the entire business just to keep it out of her hands. It was a bleak time, and I was in my small new apartment, drowning in financial statements, when a phone call changed everything. The voice on the other end was hesitant and nervous. "Is this Robert Mitchell? You're married to Cassandra Mitchell?" a man's voice asked. "We're getting divorced," I corrected him. "Who is this?" "My name is Dennis Walsh. I think we need to talk about Cassandra." What he told me made my blood run cold. He was calling from Phoenix, Arizona, and according to him, he was still married to Cassandra. He had seen a picture of her in a social media post from one of her friends, celebrating our wedding anniversary, and recognized her instantly. Dennis thought Cassandra was dead. She had disappeared from their apartment 5 years earlier, leaving a note behind saying she needed to find herself. He had spent years trying to find her, filing missing person reports and hiring private investigators. He had just started the process of having her legally declared dead so he could move on with his life. But she wasn't dead. She was in my town, fighting to take half of my life's work while still legally married to a man who had mourned her for half a decade. The next morning, I called Patricia and told her everything. She listened in silence, and then began to laugh, a disbelieving laugh. "Robert," she said, "if what he's telling you is true, then your marriage isn't valid. She's committed bigamy, which is a felony. And if your marriage isn't legal, she has no claim to any marital assets, including your business." It was the most beautiful thing I had ever heard. We moved quickly. Patricia connected with Dennis Walsh, who provided his marriage certificate and other documents. I also hired a private investigator to dig into Cassandra's past. What we found was a pattern of deception that went back for years. I wasn't her first victim. She had made a living out of marrying men, integrating herself into their finances, and then disappearing when things got complicated. I was just her latest target. The day of our next court date, I walked into the courtroom with a quiet confidence I hadn't felt in months. Cassandra sat at her table, smug and composed, probably already spending the money she thought was hers. When the judge called the session to order, Patricia stood up and brought the entire proceeding to a screeching halt. "Your Honor," she began, "we have evidence that the marriage between Mr. Mitchell and Ms. Walsh, not Mitchell, is invalid due to the respondent's existing legal marriage to another party." The look on Cassandra's face was unforgettable, a flicker of pure panic, followed by rage, and then the trapped animal expression of someone whose world is crumbling. Patricia presented the marriage certificate from Arizona and the testimony from Dennis Walsh. The courtroom was silent. The judge reviewed the evidence and then declared our marriage null and void. Cassandra had no claim to my business, my assets, or anything else. In fact, she was now facing felony charges for bigamy and fraud. As we left the courtroom, Cassandra approached me in the hallway. She looked desperate and broken. "Robert, please," she said, "we can work this out. We had something real." I looked at this woman, who I had trusted with my heart and my business for 15 years, who was willing to destroy everything I'd built on a foundation of lies. "Cassandra," I said, "I don't even know your real name." It was the last thing I ever said to her. She ended up pleading guilty to bigamy and fraud and serving 18 months in prison. Dennis Walsh finally got the closure he had been searching for. We've even become friends, bound by our shared experience. My business not only survived, but thrived. The weight of the lawsuit was gone, and I was able to focus on growing again. We've expanded into new territories and hired more employees. The experience taught me a valuable lesson. The truth always has a way of coming to light. Sometimes justice appears from the most unexpected places, and sometimes the person trying to destroy you ends up destroying themselves instead. I've started dating again, slowly and with a cautious heart. It's hard to trust, but I'm learning that not everyone is carrying secrets that can destroy your life. I'll just be sure to do a full background check first.